Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the podcast you come to when you're finally ready to take fantasy hockey seriously. My name is Groot Nibbelink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero G draft strategy. And in this episode, Blake and I are going to talk about some of the biggest hot shots and have nots of the last couple of weeks. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend. It's Blake Creamer. Blake, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm back, baby. Oh, yeah. And I feel like I can't cope right now. This is the first Sunday of a playoff week, and it's going as you would expect. It's tight. It's nerve-wracking. Like both Nate and I have some matchups in the balance here. And, yeah, it's rough to watch because you work your butt off all year, and then it comes down to like a shot or a goal or a save, and it's fantasy hockey, folks. Like that's just what it is, and there's a level of acceptance that we have to have here. But I'm not ready. I'm not ready to be bounced in the first round of my playoffs here. So by the end of this podcast, you might see a very happy Blake, or kind of a salty Blake. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, that sounds about right. So basically, since the time that we got on together and getting ready for this podcast here, I have my couple matchup that is swung in my favor. I feel pretty confident with 2 minutes left in this Tampa Calgary game that I'm going to pull out the W there, as he's got Backlund and Lyon in the Buffalo Anaheim game. I think I'm pretty confident in that one. Big game from Lawson Crouse for me here.
Yeah, buddy.
I picked up Lawson Crouse and Matt Coronado as my streamers in Kickoffle for this week, and they both had 4 points. So it doesn't get much better than that in terms of the streaming, and I absolutely needed it this week. We'll see if I can keep it going next week, but that feels good. And over in the Experts League, I'm actually slightly ahead of Ryan right now. Ryan would be pretty pissed, I feel like, if I beat him in this matchup. He sold a lot at the deadline to go all in, and I have a bunch of nobodies getting it done for me right now. So yeah, we'll see. I think he's still got me. Most likely he's got a few people in this Utah LA game and I don't, so most likely he's still going to get a little bit extra out of those games, and that'll push him across the finish line. But yeah, it's nice to be there. I sold at the deadline. I didn't think I could contend with some of the top teams in this league, and yeah, I mean, this is the team. I took Matt Tkachuk in the 4th round, like the first non-keeper round, because I just couldn't pass it up. And then I ran into the Rantanen injury. Barkov was one of my keepers before his injury, so that was out the window. Fiala on this team, Hedman on this team. So, I mean, I feel like it's relatively successful, so I'm not feeling too bad about the outcome of that one either way at this point. But yeah, it is that time of year. Every shot, every save has big time implications. And oh my goodness, I'm watching this Anaheim Buffalo game, and there's just back to back action all the time too. Anyway, Blake, we got to get into this. We got to get into some Newsies. Let's start it off with Gabe Landeskog returning from injury. This was hinted at by Jared Bednar. We weren't actually sure who it was going to be, but he did mention that he thought he would get a forward back. Turns out to be Landeskog. Returns from injury with a goal. Nearly immediately reunited with McKinnon and Nietzsche on the top line, and that's where he gets the goal. But still power play 2, at least for now, with Kadri still up there in his spot. But yeah, obviously going to be good to have Landeskog back. If you can hold him through next week, then you're going to have a great week 23 schedule from him as well. So going to be a player that you might want to make some room for. It might have actually been better for fantasy managers in some spots to have him on IR plus for the week and then get him back for the following week. But beggars can't be choosers, I guess, at this point. Jared McKinn dealing with a lower body injury, missed Saturday's game. We really have no other information. It was kind of out of the blue, and we had no prior information, no other information since. So hopefully we got something there. But Seattle has such a terrible schedule the next 2 weeks too. It might actually be a bit of a blessing, help you clear up some lineup decisions. McCann has been passed over in favor of one Bobby McMahon as of late as well on that top line, so might not be the worst thing for your lineups. You can stash them, and then maybe if you got week 24 coming up for you, you might be able to bring them back for that. Anthony Stolars took a William Nylander shot to the throat in warmups on Saturday.
Tell me more about that.
You would be interested in that. Stolars had to have a hospital visit. He did travel with the team after the game, so he should be okay based on that alone, but definitely a scary moment. Keep an eye on it just to see and make sure that he's going to be back and playing for the Leafs. I don't know if you're starting any Leafs goaltenders this time of year. It's a dicey thing, but you could, I guess. On the Leafs topic, Morgan Riley missed Saturday's game out of sheer embarrassment. Sorry, that was a lower body injury is what they called it. He's got a lower body injury, I guess, and we'll see if he comes back or if Craig Berube's had enough of his turnovers and general poor play. Also on Saturday, Travis Green referred to Jake Sanderson as 7 to 10 days out from a potential return. So that's something to keep an eye on for your potential Week 23 matchups where he might be returning. And obviously, if you have Thomas Chabot in the meantime, that would signal an end of his power play 1 time. So some implications for fantasy there for sure. And lastly, Blake, Mikko Rantanen will travel with the Dallas Stars on their upcoming 4-game road trip and hopes to play by the last couple of games of the trip. So that would be Philadelphia Sunday the 29th, a week from today as we record here, or Boston Tuesday the 31st. So that's exciting news for Rantanen owners. I'm pretty sure, Blake, you'll be pretty interested in Mikko Rantanen coming back.
Oh yeah, buddy. I was first place in the Fantasy Puck Content Creators League, so I thought I'd take a chance. The guy trying to get into the playoffs had Rantanen, so I ended up trading Scheifele for Rantanen, and it's been brutal so far because this was before it was reported that he was going to be a while. But I'm going to get some Ranto in my life. That's epic. So that means I get 1 game next week, and if I make it past next week, all 3 games in the finals. Smart guy right here, Nathan. All right, give it to me. Give it to me, Neil.
Yeah, I hope he gets back and changes your matchup and then absolutely lays an egg in the finals against me. That's what I'm hoping for at this point. All right, let's get into some hot shots, Blake. We got to start out with Nikita Kucherov. Just hats off to this man. What he's been doing over the last little bit is absolutely ridiculous. 14 points in his last 5 before tonight's game. I didn't actually check to see if he had any points in this one. Tampa and Calgary are going to overtime as we speak here. Kucherov has an assist. What a terrible game for Nikita Kucherov. Only 1 assist.
How dare you?
Just shameful, really. But this is under 19 minutes average time on ice. He's first in shots per 60, which is not something that Kucherov has always done. He's always been like a pretty solid shot producer, but definitely never been like an absolutely elite one. 10th in individual expected goals for per 60, 15th in on-ice expected goals for per 60. I don't know what more you could really say about Nikita Kucherov that hasn't been said, but if you're in leagues where Nikita Kucherov was not being drafted 3rd after McDavid and McKinnon this year, then you're in some leagues that were not altogether serious, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation in the first round. You're like, okay, where's Kuch going to go? Because he has that injury narrative, doesn't he, folks, right? This guy missed games 4 years ago. All right. But yeah, I mean, this is a 148-point pace for Kuch. He's playing unbelievable. And this is the type of thing it's going to keep him steamed up in draft time next year. Like I could see him going 2nd, 3rd. I mean, 1st. Are people drafting him 1st? I'd probably not. Maybe you could argue it at least at this point with this type of play. Like he's literally winning people their matchups this week with elite level play. It's unbelievable. 14 points in 5 games. I mean, that's what you want in your fantasy playoffs. Meanwhile, we got guys that we'll talk about, but guys like Tage, Boldy, other players. McKinnon laid an egg here on Sunday. Like, and meanwhile, Kuch is just cooking out there.
Yeah, it's a unique style of play. Like McKinnon and McDavid feels like brute force, brute strength, brute speed, the way that they get it done. And Kucherov is just on another planet with his playmaking, and the way he controls play front to back on every single shift is just remarkable to watch. Pretty much one of the elite dinguses of the league as well, especially when he gets into playoff mode. Cooch is an absolutely elite dingus, I will say. So, having been a Leafs fan for a while, I have experienced a bit of that. But you have to respect what the guy puts up
for sure.
year after year. One thing that Kucherov's hot streak has done here is really elevated Anthony Cirelli for fantasy purposes. Cirelli has 4 goals and 9 points in his last 5 games prior to this game against the Flames here on Sunday night. And in this game, Cirelli has 4 shots but no points, at least before the overtime gets started here. Cirelli, like 15 and a half minutes average time on ice. He's not playing on the power play. The underlines are not like terrific. 207 shots per 60, 171 individual expected goals for per 60, 90th on ice expected goals for per 60. So like that part is still not really there in terms of the underlying stuff. But can I interest you in Anthony Cirelli keeping this up for a hot minute while Nikita Kucherov is on another planet?
Yeah, I think at this point of the year, it's like you got to ride with who's hot, right? And Cooch is just going nuts. And I think a player like Anthony Cirelli, he's unheralded, right? Because like he basically walks so Kucherov can run, right? Like he picks up the slack, all the defensive slack. This guy's breaking the puck out of the zone. He obviously knows how to get the puck to Kucherov in good positions, and also to get open when he needs to for Cooch. Like this guy's having a great year. And a great year for him is a 65-point pace, right? That would be a career high for him. Off the back of some really good shooting percentage, like pretty low power play numbers. He doesn't do that, but Cirelli is a world-class talent. And I think as long as Cooch is going like this and Cirelli's playing on a line with him, you got to have him.
Absolutely. Let's head over to your Vancouver Canucks here, Blake. And there is a guy by the name of Marco Rossi who's announced himself on the scene there with 3 goals and 10 points in his last 5 games on just a tremendous heater for a guy that I feel like was a well-regarded piece of that Quinn Hughes deal, but I don't think anybody thought he was going to be like a true 1C for the rest of his career. Do you view Rossi any differently after this hot streak? What do you see from him? Are things just going in for him, or are things changing? What do you think about Marco Rossi's hot streak?
There's some efficiency going on, right? Like they're not dominating out there. That would be disingenuous, right? It's not happening. In fact, like his line is probably the Canucks' best line. So it's him, Besser, and Liam Ogrim. They call it the bro line, which I actually don't mind at all. But yeah, I mean, they got caved in terms of Corsi Ford last game. Like it's a work in progress. But one of the things that's really nice is I think Rossi wasn't fully healthy when he got here to Vancouver, and he tried to play through it, and then he got injured again. So I think we're seeing a healthy Rossi and what he's capable of doing. I like that he does have some chemistry with these guys. That all said, again, the individual chance and shot generation, it's not great. I think it's also hard to judge because of how bad Vancouver is offensively. Like they're not generating a damn thing, right? And this line is the best of it. So it's take it with a grain of salt. But one thing I love is that, yeah, he's putting some points on the board. And I think that bodes well for him going into next season, right? As the 2C here in Vancouver, as a power play performer. And this is a guy that's had kind of a rough road to get to where he is now. So if he can stay healthy, I like this player. I like this player for, he had 60 points in Minnesota last year. I like him for that. I like him for 55 to 60 points, even on this team here in Vancouver, because I think he's going to get some good opportunity.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of stuff under the hood. Like 49th in on ice expected goals for per 60
Nice,
through
yeah.
this stretch is a good number. I think hopefully you're seeing the development of some chemistry here with Brock Besser specifically, and maybe those could be a duo that could continue to be. I mean, Brock Besser's locked in Vancouver in terms of the contract there, so could Rossi and Besser be a 1-2 punch? Even if that's a second line for you, then at least you know you have that in the bag and you can work on filling out the rest of your roster. Obviously, Canucks are in position to have a high draft pick this year. Maybe you get a top line player there, and you can try to figure out how your lineup's going to look in the future. But yeah, definitely big for the Canucks if Rossi and Besser can be a big piece of the future, at least as part of a second line. as far as it goes for this season, Rossi, I have him in Cacupful's 16-team league. It's
Nice.
been a part of my success there. Um, and yeah, I was looking at dropping him or Jordan Eberle today to get my last second stream in for the day. And I dropped Eberle at this point, just pretty much because of this hot streak, the way that it's going right now. Obviously, Seattle's schedule a little bit worse than Vancouver's over the next 2 weeks as well. That was a little bit of a tiebreak thing too, but I think that there's something with Rossi. Was a highly regarded prospect coming out. Everybody has talked about his hockey sense and things like that too. So, yeah, I like Rossi. I'm interested to see where it goes. And yeah, I think probably not for this upcoming week, week 22, but again in week 23, I'm
Yep.
interested again as a potential streaming option. Let's talk about Brock Besser too while we're here. He has 1 goal but 7 points in his last five, over 18 minutes average time on ice, 108th in shots per 60, 23rd in individual expected goals for per 60 in the last 5 games, 79th in on ice expected goals for per 60. Obviously, that chemistry with Rossi being a big part of this, but these are numbers that we've just never seen from Brock Besser at any point throughout this year, and so it is notable that it comes with Rossi, that it's actually leading to real production. It's not just, oh yeah, they had a nice stretch under the hood, which is what we could have said about Jake DeBrusk at any point this season, but it actually is resulting in some production for both these players. So, what do you think about Besser at this point, and maybe do a comparison of the two for this season and heading into next year?
Yeah, for sure. I think I was looking at Brock Besser and some of his numbers, and I was trying to think of a good comp for him. And Gabe Vilardi is the name I keep thinking about. Like
Hmm.
Gabe Vilardi to me is one of the better people at that particular play style, which is net front play, which is board battles, getting the puck to the play drivers and sort of getting into position. And I think Besser has sort of developed into that type of player here with the Canucks. Obviously, he had better players to play with before in Quinn Hughes. JT Miller who was a good facilitator for Besser as well. But this is a guy that got a great shot. And he knows where to go, right? But he's not able to do it on his own. So it's really nice to see that Rossi is kind of providing some of that. And we'll see what happens. Like Liam Ogren is not the answer on this line. Like they need a legitimate rush threat there. You know what I mean? They need a guy that can enter the zone, slow it down, right? Rossi needs to be kind of feeding it like a Kyle Connor, right? They need a guy like that who can shoot and bring the puck into the zone, and they just don't have it. So that said, I love Brock Besser. He's probably my favorite Canuck at this point. He says he wants to stay here. I like that. I really like that. He wants to be a part of this rebuild. Canucks have a good chance at a really high draft pick. Hopefully it's Gavin McKenna. I think that would really get me excited. I think McKenna could probably jump into the NHL next year with this team. And I could see him playing, with the guys like Brock Besser, right? And really helping that, because one of his fortes, zone entries, right? Zone entries leading to chances. That's what McKenna does. So yeah, it's comparing Besser and Rossi. I mean, for fantasy, I'd rather have Besser because I feel like he's more established. He's got a better shot and he shoots more, right? Although it's not a great clip that he's doing right now, but I just think goals are a hot commodity for me in fantasy, and I think Besser has a better chance at those. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Rossi is having a really nice time here, a little section of time, and it just bodes well for both these players moving into the future.
All right, let's continue on and talk about Connor Brown, who has 2 goals and 6 points in his last five, 18 and a half minutes average time on ice, has seen a ton of time recently alongside Jack Hughes at even strength and on the top power play, and has been getting to biz as a result. Now, obviously, heading into this week, it's going to be another week where you're probably dropping a lot of players with bad schedules. So I'm not going to go out on a limb and say you're going to be starting Connor Brown every night this week. He does have the Sunday off night at the end of the week, but has the 3 heavy nights before that. But Connor Brown, is this somebody we have to reevaluate a little bit as to what we thought he was? Is it a player that you're thinking about differently at all, or is it strictly just a hot streak, strictly just Jack Hughes exposure at this point?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like this is a player that is more suited as a third line, like a bottom six grinder on a really good third line. So the fact that he's able to elevate up to, the top 6 there playing with Jack Hughes, it's great. And Jack Hughes actually requested to play with Connor Brown. So some of the things that Connor Brown does well, he's able to keep up. Like, he's a decent skater. He's able to keep up with Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes, but the finishing is not there. The finishing is terrible with Connor Brown. It always has been. This is a guy that played, like, I remember when he was with Ottawa, he was getting over 20 minutes a night. And like, his shots on goal per 60 were just ridiculous, like ridiculously low. He doesn't shoot. He's kind of just a glue guy. And I think, at least for this season, yeah, if he's getting top 6 and power play 1, he's a guy that needs to be rostered if you're rostering New Jersey Devils players. But I mean, remember when we talked to Dmitry Filipovich and just the narrative around New Jersey, like, they don't have the wingers to play with their top end talent, and they need to sort that out in the offseason. So if they go into next season with Connor Brown in the top 6, that's not going to cut it. You know what I mean? Connor Brown on the top power play, that's not going to cut it, right? So this is a guy that's filling a gap right now, and he's doing an admirable job, but it's not a player that I think we can expect for fantasy to continue this offensive pace.
Yeah, there are some spots, like, if you are in a deeper league and you picked up Connor Brown and you're looking at guys to drop for this week, like, if you had the decision between like Jordan Eberle and Connor Brown, say, this week, like, the Sunday off night alone is enough to make me go with Connor Brown
Absolutely.
just for that one game at the end of the week, right? If that was your decision. So there are definitely scenarios in which I think in some pretty deep leagues that you could be hanging on to Connor Brown. But similar to you, like, I feel like there is a little bit of the clock strikes midnight on this player, even within this season still here. And even if Jack Hughes wants to play with him, I think at some point he'll get moved again, and it won't take too long. And so, yeah, I just feel like it's been a nice stretch. I've been a beneficiary of Connor Brown in his position on line 1, power play 1. I just think that it's most likely going to go away here, and potentially sooner rather than later. Troy Terry with the OT winner as we watch here. So
yeah, it's not going to help me. Tampa lost. So
I saw that one
painful.
too.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Let's keep going and talk about Pavel Zacha here. 4 goals, 6 points in his last 5. A little bit over 16.5 minutes average time on ice. 105th shots per 60, 37th individual expected goals for per 60, and 110th in on ice expected goals for per 60. It's been a nice little stretch for Zacha here. He is on the top power play, but he's on that second line with Arvidsson and Middlestat, and they've actually found a little bit of chemistry here. Arvidsson's been hot as well, and Boston has a decent schedule this week, which is just about better than everybody else in the league this week. They have Wednesday and Sunday off nights, so Pavel Zacha, especially for this week, especially coming off a hot week like he just had, are you interested, Blake?
Oh, you have to be. Zacha is a must-add for this upcoming week for those 2 off nights. He's feeling it right now. He's feeling his plums. All right, he's manipulating them. Oh, damn it! I'm sorry, but yeah, this is a guy that's definitely feeling good right now, and it's at this point of the year where it's kind of like analytics be damned, because you look at there are some nice things under the hood with Pavel Zacha. I think you mentioned he's 37th overall in individual expected goals per 60, or if he didn't, I'm doing it now. But in the last 5 games, that's excellent, right? He's getting to those spots, and he's burying his chances, right? That's why his conversion is up. But yeah, it's Boston as a team, like their power play has not been good. Zacha's on there, at least in the last 10 games, power play has not been good. They've been overachieving, right? And Zacha has been overachieving. So, I mean, we have to let it ride at this point. This is a guy that's must roster. I think, I'm sure you guys talked about it on the waiver show here, but we got to have Zacha on our lineup and go back to that show to see how Nate's kind of ranking it. But I mean, who did you actually, because I didn't check the episode, is it Zacha or Lindholm who you would take first for Boston?
Yeah, I'd definitely take Zacha first at this point in time. I mean, Lindholm isn't playing with Pasternak either at even strength, so I'll take the guy who's hot and is also on the power play 1. So yeah, I would definitely take Zacha at the moment.
Sweet.
Let's move on then to Erik Karlsson. 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points in the last 5 games before today's game. Actually, should have checked, but I didn't. Did he get in on that single Pittsburgh goal today? He did not. It was Chinikov from Rust and Crosby. So Karlsson 25 minutes a night, 6 shots per 60, fourth individual expected goals for per 60, 26th on ice expected goals for per 60. This has been an unbelievable run for Erik Karlsson, really turning back the clock here for the veteran defender. And I'm like, I'm like kind of feeling it. I've talked a few times throughout the year about how much I respect what Dan Muse has been able to do with this team, how efficient he's made them, how he's got like 3 lines all pulling in the same direction and being dangerous. And the fourth line has an identity defensively too. Um, yeah, I just can't say enough about the job that I think Dan Muse has done with the Pittsburgh Penguins in general. And it seems like Carlson had a fine year, I feel like, before this, but now it really feels like when Malkin and Crosby went down, he was like, okay, yeah, I got to be a superstar now. And it turns out he still can do it. And so it's a nice place to be if you have Erik Karlsson right now. What's your expectation for Karlsson moving forward? And let's try to preset some expectations for next year as well, based on what we're seeing here.
I mean, Erik Karlsson with this Dan Muse coach team, he's good to go, right? This is a guy he's still an amazing skater, and his play in transition is some of the best from the back end in the league at age 35. So it's incredible stuff. I mean, par for the course for Pittsburgh, right? Look at what Crosby's doing. Look at what Malkin's doing. I have no reason to doubt what Karlsson is doing now. Like we forget sometimes. Like you go from, like, this guy went from 101 point season with San Jose, where he was the guy, right? He was the absolute guy, and they didn't have anything to play for, so they could throw him out in any situation. They didn't care about his mistakes. For that historic run. But when he gets to Pittsburgh, they had some Stanley Cup aspirations those first couple of years, and it just didn't come to fruition, right? You still had a Chris Letang that was like, in the mix for power play time. And I just think that Dan Muse is really the key to this change in Pittsburgh. Like, if you look at what the team's been able to do this season, I mean, it's night and day from last year. They're fourth overall at 5-on-5 in expected goals for. They're sixth overall in actual goals scored. So they're scoring at the pace they should be with the level of chances they're getting. Their power play is fifth overall in the league. Their penalty kill is first overall in the league. Like, this is not a joke. Pittsburgh Penguins are actually good, and they were good with Crosby out of the lineup too. And that speaks a lot to the coaching, like you said. So long story short, I think that Karlsson is healthy. He's knows the players very well that he's playing with, and everybody has bought into the system that Dan Muse is preaching here, and you're seeing the benefit of it. This guy is a smash right now. So for next year, I mean, he's going to get overdrafted, right? But I mean, if everybody comes back for Pittsburgh, including Malkin, like, Malkin has had an amazing year in terms of play driving, like better than he has in the last 2 or 3 years. Like, his play driving is unbelievable. Guys like Justin Brazeau, guys like Anthony Mantha, those are guys that are benefiting directly from the play of Evgeny Malkin, right? I don't know. I think he's going to be in the mix for like a kind of a top tier defenseman. I think hopefully a guy you can get at a little bit more value just based on his age.
Yeah, I tend to agree. He's on a 14-goal, 69-point pace on the season now, which is pretty nice, obviously. Like, the overall numbers on the season: 20th shots per 60, 8th individual expected goals for per 60, 10th on ice expected goals for per 60. The IPP is just under 50%, which is high for a defenseman, but again, like, he's had to be that guy through this stretch too, which contributes. I think is fine for Karlsson. 13.1% on ice shooting percentage is maybe the part that you think is a little bit higher than it might be in an average year, but that's kind of also what Dan Muse has done for this team this year, it feels like. And so what percentage of that might be sustainable? I think a pretty good chunk of it. So whether or not he can maintain a close to 70-point pace, I think that's definitely up for debate for next year, but 60 plus, I think, could be pretty much in the wheelhouse, and I would expect something similar rest of season here. All right, Blake, before we get into some have-nots, we've got to talk about the Patreon. $2 a month gets you Absolutely and Ginos Patreon League eligibility. $8 a month gets you that eligibility, but also gets you access to Patreon Discord channels and live shows. Also gets you access to the show notes for this show right here and the weekly Waiver Wire show, and also gets you access to the Apples and Ginos player evaluation tool, which is something that we use when we're talking about all these numbers, the last 5 games, the season-long numbers. That's what we're pulling from. Terrific tool that we use every single episode that we do here on the show. All right, Blake, are you ready to talk about some have-nots?
I'm stoked, buddy. They're all on my team, so this should be good.
Perfect. Let's talk about Will Smith first. Obviously, I've been pretty effusive in my love for Will Smith throughout the course of the year. I believe I had him as one of my top sleepers at the beginning of the year as well. But for the most part, I think he's delivered on the hype. But over the last 5 games here, no points. Over 18 minutes a night, 180th shots per 60, 163 individual expected goals for per 60, 154 in on ice expected goals for per 60. Gets called out by Ryan Warsofsky a little bit as I guess not playing good hockey, good real man hockey. I think is the direct quote that we got from Ryan Warsofsky there.
Solid critique there.
Yeah. So where are you at with Will Smith at this point? San Jose's schedule makes this really tough too because Will Smith was like I have Will Smith in some spots, and it was not a player I was thinking about dropping. But the schedule makes this extra tough with San Jose playing 3 games, 0 off nights each of the next 2 weeks, and him just going ice cold at the worst moment. You still like the fact that he's going to play with Celebrini at least on the top power play, if not at even strength. But what do you do with Will Smith for this upcoming week, especially given a little bit of coach speak, not just a cold streak, but some coach speak around it too?
Yeah, I mean, you have to take that into consideration, right? I dropped him. I had him in a spot, and I dropped him because really, like, you can't take zeros. I think Will Smith is going to be one of those guys that's going to be on the outs on those busy nights in week 22, right? 15-game Tuesday, 13-game Thursday, 15-game Saturday. Yeah, like he might not be making the squad there. So I can't take zeros in week 22. I think with what's going on, yeah, he's absolutely droppable at this point. I love the player, and I'm with you there. Like, I think he's had an amazing season. It's unfortunate that he's kind of, sagging a little bit at this point of the year. But again, remember too, like if your playoffs go to week 24, San Jose has by far the best schedule. So this is a player that you're going to want to have for that week. But I mean, weeks 22 and 23, it's going to be a tough hold. So yeah, that's where I'm at there. I mean, in terms of the player, like he's amazing. He's amazing at transition, generating chances off zone entries, right? And he plays with Mac and Celebrini in a lot of cases, who I think we know what kind of talent we have there. Plus, Will Smith is on power play 1. So it's a guy we're definitely going to be interested in next season. I don't know, where do you see Will Smith getting drafted next season? After pacing for, what is he pacing for? 67 points. I bet he finishes around, like a 67 to 70 point pace. Like, where does that put him next year in draft season?
Yeah, I think just kind of the style of player he is, not huge peripherals, and yeah, in this range where it feels like there are a lot of players that you could project in that range.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he might go a little undetected. We might get him in double-digit rounds next year, and these are the kinds of guys that you want to take in those double-digit rounds because they have the opportunity to pop and to take another step at this stage in their development. So I think that I'm still tremendously excited about Will Smith. I am not super excited about starting him next week for my fantasy team, and I would consider dropping him as you have to get some games played for next week, especially if I was thinking about benching him anyway. So that's where I'm at on Will Smith. Still love the player, just might be a tough stretch over the next week or two to continue with him on your roster. Tomas Hertl is next up, also 0 points in his last 5. I actually think it goes back further than that. And I believe he had another zero burger in this game.
8 games.
Tonight. 8 games for Tomas Hertl without a point is pretty crazy when you stop to think about it. Over 17 and a half minutes average time on ice, 50th shots per 60, 49th individual expected goals for per 60, 32nd in on ice expected goals for per 60. And like that's relatively in line with his season long numbers. He's on a 28 goal, 63 point pace. Do you think it's just like a run of real bad luck here for Hertl? Do you think that he's so cold that you have to drop him just because? Like the underlying numbers say this should turn around.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to drop him, but he's in the conversation. Like he's not getting it done. And with Vegas' schedule over the next couple weeks here, like I think Vegas plays 3 games. Yeah, 3 games all on the heavy nights in week 22. And then in week 23, I mean, it's not much better, right? Vegas plays 3 games with 1 off night. So yeah, Hertl's he's on the bubble for me. I've got him in a spot and I might have to drop him just because of the lack of performance. But I mean, it doesn't it's not indicative of what I think of the player. I think he's had a great season, 62-point pace. His role on the power play, unbelievable. Like that Vegas power play, not being able to put the biscuit in the basket as of late is really one of the reasons why Hurdle's kind of gone cold, because he's the trigger man on that power play as a net front player. He's great at that. He's really good at doing that. So it's just poor timing. But I also look at Vegas like it's weird. I think with Mark Stone out of the lineup for so long, like they lost a little bit of swagger there. They lost some swagger on the power play because I think Mark Stone really drives that. And then now that he's back, like they haven't been able to put it together. They've had some subpar goaltending. I mean, cold streaks from Eichel too, right? Eichel's not doing much. Who is, right? Like who is on Vegas right now doing stuff? So I think, long story short, yeah, you can drop Hurdle if you need to, and I might just be dropping him in a spot, but this is a player still that I think is great. It's just poor timing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I will note Thomas Hurdle in this game against Dallas today, playing with Keegan Kolesar and Brett Howden. So that's
Ew.
a tough look if you're looking for offense. And they did win the game, so we might see a little bit more of it in the upcoming week. I want to hang on to Hurdle, but I can totally understand anybody dropping him. I do think that it's most likely the case that he gets off the schneid here sooner rather than later, but
Yeah.
yeah, sooner is a question of how soon at this point in your fantasy season. So yeah, you'll have to make that decision for yourself based on your league, but it is what it is at this point with this Vegas offense really struggling to get things going. Let's talk about Matt Boldy. Just one goal in his last 5 games and no assists. 22 minutes a night, 45th shots per 60, 90th individual expected goals for per 60, 70th in on ice expected goals for per 60. Kaprizov out, Joel Eriksson Ek out for the last couple of games. Do we think that that's enough to explain what's going on with Boldy, who's still on a 47-goal, 92-point pace on the season? I want to believe that Matt Boldy's going to come back and crush it for me in week 22. How much faith do you have in him right now, Blake?
I mean, I have a lot of faith. Again, just really unfortunate timing. This stinks. But if you've ever watched a Minnesota Wild game, you know the impact that Matt Boldy has on the game. This guy is insanely dynamic, and he can do it with or without Kaprizov. Obviously, with is better, right? And with Joel Eriksson Ek is better. So I think, we have to put that out there as well. Like he's been missing Eriksson Ek, so that throws the lines in a blender. And it's been the secondary guys scoring on Minnesota Wild, where the top guys aren't really getting the job done. Boldy, the main offender here. So that said, like it could happen at any moment. This guy is super clutch. Like he's always one of the league leaders in game-winning goals at the end of the year, which is a really interesting stat for me with Boldy. He's super clutch. He's super dynamic. So yeah, I think, and the thing with Boldy too is there's nothing you're doing with him. I think it's not like Thomas Hurdle, where we're like, yeah, I think I'll drop Thomas Hurdle. It's like, you're not dropping Boldy, even if he plays 3 games. Like if he played 2 games, I mean, okay, maybe you're getting into a conversation, but he's making your roster on those busy nights, and you kind of just have to hope for the best. But the good news is, like, he generates shots and generates chances at an elite level. He's on a great power play that still has Quinn Hughes, even without Kaprizov and, anybody else. Like Tarasenko's been playing well. I think he should be in line for some more points here. It's just been a bad stretch of luck.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, realistically, you're not doing anything with Matt Boldy. You're not even benching him. You just can't. A guy with good underlying numbers, skating 22 minutes a night, who is on a 92-point pace, we're not thinking about benching him. And I'm not seriously either, even if he scored no points and looked terrible for the first 2 games of the week, I'd still run him back out there for the third. All right, Luke Evangelista, 1 assist in his last 5 games before today's game and didn't register any points there. So it's been a tough run for Luke Evangelista. 17 and a quarter minutes average time on ice in that stretch. In this game today, it was 15:25. And they have been doing some power play stuff that has seen him come off that top unit. And it's been Marchessault getting the majority of the time up there as of late. And that's obviously going to bring down his numbers somewhat. 160th shots per 60, 230th in individual expected goals for per 60, and 256th in on-ice expected goals for per 60. Was still playing with Stamkos and O'Reilly at even strength, which is obviously a pretty good spot to be from that standpoint. Now, we're getting to that point of the schedule where Nashville's schedule is not so great. They play 4 games this week. They do have the one off night, but it is on the Sunday, so you're going to have to roster Evangelista through the week. Obviously, we're talking about some deep leagues to be talking about Luke Evangelista after he's been cold. Most people have probably already dropped him where they've been streaming him. But do you still believe in this player? Do you still believe that he could have a bounce back week here in your fantasy playoffs? And would you consider holding him just to get that single game?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. That's the craziness of week 22, right? Like these off nights are currency and this guy plays one. So it's like, yeah, it stinks to hold, but you're going to have people on your bench on those busy nights anyway, for the most part. Right. And he's still playing. Well, like he played with Ryan O'Reilly and Steven Stamkos here today. And that's the line that's doing stuff. He's just not getting in on it, which is really frustrating because he has been bumped off power play 1. And I think that really is the key. That's where some of that deployment fell off. And I think there's a certain swagger that you have as a player when you're out there on power play 1 and then you get bumped off. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of goes away, right? This is a guy that has 16 power play points on the year, but he's not going to get it done with like playing on power play 2 on Nashville, right? It's just lopping points off the top right there. So great even strength deployment, terrible power play. You're holding for the Sunday game. I mean, unless you can get a player from Chicago or Boston or hopefully the Rangers. Like I would easily drop Luke Evangelista for Gabe Perreault. There's no question whatsoever. Even for like Ty Cartier, maybe. You know what I mean? Like if you're getting 4 games out of a guy as opposed to 1 from Luke Evangelista, like yeah, that makes some sense to me. But if you're just looking to kind of level up for a better player, I'd rather just hold on to Evangelista. This is a player with a lot of promise. We've talked about him a lot this year, and I'm excited to see what he does next year.
Yeah, I think that I have officially entered into excited to see what he does next year territory. Yeah. So without the power play 1, I do think it's going to be tough for him to impact your lineups. But yeah, like in Cacuffle where it's 16 teams and I've had some injuries and ended up with a bunch of guys who are kind of all a similar streamer level player. Mm-hmm. It is like a case where I would roster the one guy who has the one Sunday off night because I have enough other guys that are streamer level that I might drop to get those, to get whatever other off nights or goalies or whatever I'm going to do to get them in there. So if you're in that spot, I think you can hold Luke Evangelista. I still think the player's playing well and in a good spot in terms of the even strength deployment. Would we prefer he's on power play 1 at the moment? Obviously we would, but still a good player, but probably a player that we're more excited about for next year than we are for rest of the season. All right, last order of business with the have-nots. I want to do a 4-headed monster of defensemen here. All have scored no points in their last 5 games, although Bowen Byram did score an assist in this game against Anaheim here tonight, so he has broken that streak. But these 4, Bowen Byram, Chris Letang, Aaron Ekblad, Justin Falk, all skating well over 20 minutes a night. None of them have really good underlying numbers. To give you a hint of what that looks like, Justin Falk has the best underlying number at 43rd in on-ice expected goals for per 60, which is fine, but definitely not something to get excited about in terms of fantasy relevance. So let's break it down a little bit here, Blake. Let's start with who you are the most excited about and who you have the least confidence in rest of season, and then we'll do a little bit of ranking after that.
I don't know if excited is the right word, Nathan, but yeah, I mean, Bo Byram, I'm at this point with this level of player, we're looking at some power play 2 defensemen, right? We're looking at kind of a tier down from the top guys. I want a player that's playing on the best team, that's scoring the most goals, right? And right now, it's Buffalo, right? Like we gotta that has to be respected, right? Like they, they're winning big time. They're 9-2 in their last 11. It's a great, like they're playing with a bunch of swagger over there, and Bowen Byram is as well. Like he's having such a Bowen Byram year, isn't he? Like 10 goals, 25 assists, 35 points. He's pacing for 40. That could be his MO for the rest of his career, honestly, unless he gets like a clear power play 1 opportunity somewhere, which he's not going to get here in Buffalo. Like he's having a great season. He's a very efficient shooter from the back end. He makes a big difference out there, and he's playing some really important minutes for a team that's winning some games. So I think we got to be excited about Bo Byram. I think you got to look at Chris Letang as a player that you're interested in, which is great to say. Like these guys are ageless there in Pittsburgh. This guy's pacing for 35 points. I mean, he's obviously not the same player we've seen, but he has access to some really amazing players. Some of the underlying metrics are really good, and I'll let you talk about that. But, still no points. We can't really expect that from Letang, right? So we can't expect that from any of these guys. That let's put that disclaimer out there. But, I think I like his access to really good players and his role on that team. He's getting good numbers there. I think Aaron Ekblad, like he had some power play one with Seth Jones out, and now he's kind of relinquished that. I'm not interested, really. I'm just not interested at all in Ekblad. This is a guy we got excited about for a hot minute after, 57 points in 61 games 5 years ago. Okay. No, he's not that player anymore. He's a streamer level at best. He's good peripherally. So we're getting that. But even with power play one on this dilapidated Florida Panthers team, he wasn't able to do too much. So I'm not too interested there. Justin Falk, I like the player. I like the situation. Like he's having a Bowen Byram type year as well. 12 goals, 22 assists, really nice stuff. But he's now a new face in a new place, trying to kind of get used to his teammates there. I like that he's getting the 20-minute treatment. So he's getting some run there. Really nice. I mean, 2 points with his new team in, I don't know, what is that, 7 games? It's not great, but that's not really what he's expected to do at this point. So that said, like there's a lot of variance there. So I don't know. You want me to talk like that's basically my ranking. I'd probably go Byram, Letang, Falk, Ekblad. That's how I would rank those 4 players. What about you?
I agree with Byram up top. I mean, just for the off nights this week, you have to go Byram, it feels like, to get him in your lineup. But if we're just ranking solely for fantasy, I would still go Byram at the top, assuming you could get the same amount of games played from every single one of these guys. Honestly, I'd probably go Byram over the others, even if you had one less game of Byram versus the others. I think he is a bit of a tier above the others for me personally at the moment, and most of it is just to do with how well Buffalo's playing. For myself, I think I would take both Falk and Ekblad over Letang, though. I have
Well, you're out of control.
I have heard some pretty rough things from beat reporters about Letang's play, and the points have not come. It really does seem like Letang has taken a significant step back this year from all accounts, and so that's pretty concerning for me. I think, yeah, probably he has the best environment after Byram in terms of the Pittsburgh offense under Dan Muse, which we talked about before. But I have very little confidence that he's going to make anything of it at this point in the season. And so, yeah, I think I would honestly flip a coin between Falk and Ekblad. I would not be excited to roster either. I dropped Ekblad in Kikuffle 16-team league.
Says it all.
Yeah, I think that says it all. But I'd still place Letang a little bit below those two for myself. So that's where I'm at on all of those. Hopefully that helps somebody out there who's making that call for themselves this upcoming week. All right, well, if we did not talk about a player that you want to hear about, make sure you join me for Monday's 8:30 p.m. EST live stream of Puzzling Players. Now we're going to get into the environment, where we talk about the environment for fantasy in some specific cases. Blake, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, you bet, buddy. What we wanted to do with this segment here, just because we're so close to the end, is sort of give you a snapshot of the 4 teams that have the best schedule in week 22. Just give you a snapshot of what they're looking like under the hood, so it can help you make your streaming decisions if you're looking at certain players there. So let's do that. So there's a couple things we're going to look at: expected goals for, actual goals for, expected goals against, actual goals against, and then a power play percentage. So I'm going to do that with each team here and give you the straight goods. All right. So let's start with New York Rangers, right? They're obviously, we've talked enough about them. You got to have these guys on your team. Last 10 games, they're 5-4-1. 5-on-5. They're 26 overall in expected goals for per 60 in the last 10 games. All these numbers are in the last 10 games. So 26 overall in expected goals for, 3rd overall in actual goals for. So that when you see something like that, it means to me that it's not really sustainable, right? Like they're producing off of massive efficiency. 26th in expected, based on their chances and where they're getting their shots from, and third in actual goals for. So that means they're finishing at a high rate. They're 19th overall in expected goals against per 60 and 15th overall in actual goals against. So yeah, they're defensively, they're pretty mid, but that'll play. That's fine. And they're the really key piece here is their first overall in power play percentage in the last 10 games. So that power play is still pretty damn good, right? You got a healthy Adam Fox there. You got Mika Zibanejad, who's having a really nice season. And you got Alexis Lafreniere, who's been boosted up to the top power play, and he's really been a big piece of it, right? And now you got JT Miller back in the mix. Does that make it worse? Probably, right? But yeah, this is not a JT Miller pod here, folks. Okay, but yeah, so that to me says like I'm expecting that the power play will still be good, right? It's the best in power play percentage, but it also says to me that they're getting some good goaltending from Shesterkin, but they're running a little bit hot, right? So I also wanted to mention, next week 4 games, 4 off nights, some strength of schedule stuff. They play Ottawa at home, which is going to be a tough out there, right? Ottawa fighting for their playoff lives. You got an away game at Toronto that should be a pretty good chance at a dub there. You got Chicago and Florida at home, both good chances for some points and some dubs, in my opinion. So I don't know, anything to add on the New York Rangers there, Nate? I think it works out really well because you get all the games in and they're doing stuff on the power play, and their strength of schedule is pretty good as well.
Yeah, I think like the vibes are generally better now that they've fully committed to, shipping off Panarin and taking a step back for the remainder of the year. The
Yep.
vibes seem to have relieved a little bit with the weight of expectation off this team. And so, yeah, they seem to be willing to try a bit more stuff. Like in this game that they played today against the Jets, Matthew Robertson, Braden Schneider played almost, I guess, a little bit more than 4 minutes at even strength than the Gavrikov's Fox pair. So they're doing stuff like that out there currently. And yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. But you are also playing JT Miller on the Connor Sheary Ty Cartier line, playing Trocheck, Cooley, Radish, Zibanejad, Lafreniere, Perreault as your line. So they're spreading things out, just letting it all hang out and kind of getting a biz that way. So I think the vibes are just generally better. And I am actually like relatively okay with streaming guys, even from a little bit further down the lineup with them.
Yep, that's a really key piece. Like these guys are viable, right? Ty Cartier is a great example. Gabe Perreault, obviously, and you talked about it, I'm sure, in the waiver wire episode. Like a lot of these guys, Braden Schneider, these are guys you probably need to add this week. So, so that's good. New York Rangers, I think it could really, really be a big benefit to you in week 22. Obviously, let's talk about the Boston Bruins. Last 10 games for them, they're 5 wins, 2 losses, 3 overtime losses. I think that's what that is. Yeah. So yeah, reasonable in the last 10 games. I mean, 5-on-5 in the last 10 games, 22nd overall in expected goals for per 60, 9th overall in actual goals for per 60. So again, finishing at a pretty high rate, maybe a little too high, right? 28th overall in expected goals for per 60. So that's not good, right? 12th overall in actual goals against per 60. So that says to me, they've had some really good goaltending, right? And we know that Jeremy Swayman has been playing really, really well. And then in the last 10 games, they're 28th overall in power play percentage, which is putrid. That stinks. But I do want to say on the year, Boston is 7th best in power play percentage. So that's going to come back up. That should come back up. So, it's not something like this is not a, bargain basement power play. This is a good power play that's not performing currently. In terms of their schedule coming up, 4 games with 2 off nights. We know that they play Toronto at home, then Buffalo away in a back-to-back. They play 2 back-to-backs in week 22. So Toronto at home, sure. Yeah, we're going to get a good opportunity for some points there. Buffalo, we just saw tonight. I mean, Anaheim beat them 6-5. Like you can score goals against Buffalo. I mean, that's they let in 6 tonight after 2 straight shutouts, right? Like it's whatever. I think Buffalo can do some fire wagon hockey too. And then they got Minnesota on Saturday at home and then Columbus Sunday on the road. So it's a lot harder schedule for Boston than it was for New York, right? So just something to consider. But I mean, like, what do you think about Boston here? Like, obviously Jeremy Swayman has been really good and the finishing has been good. Do you think that power play has room to improve?
I think it does. I think it probably also like they were a bit over their skis with the early production. They have Pasternak, and obviously everything runs through him, and that's been terrific. But I do think that probably their finishing was a bit extreme on that power play throughout much of the year, and this is probably just some natural regression coming back. I have been waiting for Boston to fall off pretty much all year. I think at the beginning of the year, if I remember correctly, I was pretty vocal about how bad I thought this forward group was, and it has not been nearly as bad as I thought. They have gotten production from down the lineup and like crucially gotten it when they really needed it, and they've gotten goaltending when they needed it. It feels like they've been a team of opportunity, which is credit to them. Like it takes a certain caliber of mental fortitude to pull out those one goal games too, for sure. And I think they've done an admirable job of doing that in their first year under Marco Sturm there. I still feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop with
Yeah.
Boston, but I mean we're this close to the end of the season. Is it actually going to hit, or are they just going to continue this run throughout the rest of the season? Definitely up for debate at this point. I honestly feel like Boston is one of the toughest teams for me to read and has been the entire year. I have continually waited for them to fall apart a little bit for the entire year, and it just hasn't happened, and credit to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said too about strength of schedule, it's going to be tough for them. But guys like Victor Arvidsson, even Casey Middlestat to some degree, you probably need to have these guys on your team. Fraser Minton, yeah, you got to have these guys probably. So something to consider. But yeah, just again, a snapshot of what they've been doing the last 10 games so it'd help you make your decisions. Let's talk about the Chicago Blackhawks. They have last 10 games, four wins, 3 losses, 3 overtime losses. So, pretty mid as Chicago has been, or less than mid pretty much all year, but 5-on-5 in the last 10 games, dead last in the league in expected goals for per 60. That show ain't no good. 25th overall in actual goals for per 60. I mean, that kind of says it all, right? The offensive environment there is terrible. So if you're expecting a bunch of offense from these guys, like it's just not there. They're not generating what they should, and they don't really have the supporting cast around Connor Bedard to really do that, right? I mean, they need guys to play, like you said, over their skis to really compete here, and that just hasn't been happening. So something of note for their offensive environment, it's terrible. In terms of defense, they're 21st overall in expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5, but seventh overall in actual goals against per 60. So that's a nice piece. That's a nice feather in their cap for the Chicago Blackhawks. But I think it says a lot about their goaltending. Obviously, Spencer Knight has had an incredible year in terms of goals saved above expected. He's been catching bullets in his teeth, and it's been great. He's been giving them a chance to win. And Arvid Soderblom, I think he's played really well as of late as well. Like that's a guy, if you need a one goalie stream, I mean, it doesn't feel good, but these guys are cooking. They're keeping their teams in the game. So something to consider there. And then their power play, which should be a lot better. Like I predicted it would be a top 10 power play. It's 21st in the league, right? And in the last 10 games is 23rd. So it's not great, right? I just think, they need some more pieces there in Chicago before we can really kind of rely on them for offensive production. They do have 4 games, as we said, and 2 off nights. They're all on the road. They're 4 games. They play the Islanders, they play Philadelphia, then they play the Rangers, then they play the Devils. So schedule is pretty good. That Islanders game is going to be tough because the Islanders are scratching and clawing for playoff position, right? But I mean, yeah, the other games, those are games where Chicago has a chance to put up some points. But if you're picking from these 4 teams, I think Chicago has by far the worst chance at actually producing. I don't know. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, it's definitely not a team you feel like you can rely on for anything. I like Frank Nazar and what he's been doing
Mhm.
as of late on the top power play, getting
Yep.
some decent, even strength line mates as well, as Bedard has been kind of hung out to dry with Ryan Green and Andre Burakovsky for much of the last little bit here. Nazar has had Teravainen, Bertuzzi, guys like that more often than not. So I kind of like Nazar. Bertuzzi is rostered in most leagues, I would say, but if he's available, I would still be interested in him. Teravainen is a guy who like gets hot for like 3 games and goes quiet for like 5 games. So if you catch him on the right nights, he might be good. But definitely you're taking a swing with that one. So it is really about the swings you're willing to take with Chicago. You cannot, assume anything about the production you'll get, but it is going to be worthwhile with that Friday, Sunday off night to end the week.
Yep, you're going to be rostering these guys whether you like it or not. All right, so hopefully you can get Nazar out there because he's a cut above, that's for sure. And then lastly, we'll talk about Buffalo. They have 3 games, 2 off nights, so you're going to want to get in on these guys. Last 10 games before tonight, 9-1. All right, that show is good. Okay, very good show for them. Buffalo's been a wagon. We all know this, but let's dig under the hood here. So 5-on-5, last 10 games, 15th overall in expected goals for per 60. 4th overall in actual goals for per 60. They're crushing. They're elite in terms of their finishing, and yeah, they're scoring a ton of goals. As we know, they're rolling like 3 really solid lines that are scoring, and their 4th line has an identity. It's good stuff, right? They're doing well. In terms of their defensive environment, 17th overall in expected goals against per 60, 5th in actual goals against per 60. So they're getting good goaltending as well, right? Obviously, UPL and Alex Lyon have been playing out of their minds, save for tonight. Alex Lyon gave up 6, but before that, these guys were really getting to biz, suppressing a lot of chances and goals. So, and then their power play has been 10th best over the last 10 games as well. So really nice to see. I mean, you know what we think about Buffalo, and there's lots of good streaming options for Buffalo as well. So the 3 games they play, all at home, which is nice. They play Boston, Detroit, and Seattle. So Buffalo is an elite team at this point. Like they're an upper echelon team, so they're the team that is tough for the other team to play. So I think they have the matchup advantage over all 3 of those teams, and I think we can expect their guys to do really well. Like Zach the Butler Benson got a goal and an assist tonight. I love that. Jack Quinn is crushing right now. The dog, Josh Doan, he's doing stuff. Meanwhile, Tage, 0 shots in a game. Tage, you put that. How? I mean, he's just out there for a skate. He doesn't care. That's how good the top 9 is in Buffalo. Tage doesn't have to do crap. So, anyways, talk to me about Buffalo. I know we've talked them to death, but like, what do you think that their current run, I mean, is sustainable? Do you think they're going to go on this heater into the playoffs? Or do you think there's going to be a little bit of a letdown?
I think there might be a little bit of a letdown. Like any team that runs this hot, you think there probably will be. We saw it with Colorado earlier this year. It's just so hard for any team to continue at the pace that they've been on in a league that has as much parity as the NHL does. That being said, they have all the motivation in the world to keep it going and try to keep home ice advantage. You absolutely know that Buffalo, those home games are going to be electric when they do play after so long out of the playoffs. So that's going to be something to watch for sure, and must-watch television when we get there. For this week upcoming, I think you're looking at Josh Doan as a really good option. I think you're looking at guys like Josh Norris. You're looking at guys like Jason Zucker. Even in your deeper leagues like Jack Quinn, I'm absolutely interested. Zach Benson had a goal and an assist. Only 12 minutes tonight, but still a goal and an assist in this game. Ryan McLeod has been known to pop off with a few assists in a few games, so if you catch him on the right couple of nights, that could happen for you this week as well. I think there's just a lot of options that are pretty interesting from Buffalo, especially with this Wednesday, Friday off night schedule this week.
You bet, big dog. All right, we're almost done, folks. Thanks for sticking with us here. Nate, why don't we talk about a player here under the hood who's looking good?
All right, and that's going to be Beckett Seneca. Talked about Seneca last week in the have-nots, and last 10 games, 1836 average time on ice, 1 goal and 2 points heading into tonight's game. He immediately scores a goal and has 2 points in the game tonight to equal those numbers. But even if he had scored 0 points tonight, I was still going to be very interested to talk about him. 26th in shots per 60 over the last 10 games before tonight, 10th in individual scoring chances for per 60, 53rd in on ice scoring chances for per 60. Last 5 games, 18 plus average time on ice still. Had just the 1 assist heading into tonight. 35th in shots per 60, but 5th in individual expected goals for per 60, and 35th in on ice expected goals for per 60. I really like what Seneca has done. I like the fact that he's come on at the end of the season, and the underlying numbers have actually come up at the end of the season. That's something that we saw with Will Smith last year and made me a big time believer in what he might be able to do this season. And I think we're getting a little bit of that from Seneca. It feels a little bit like what we got from Cutter Gauthier. I think Gautier's probably more the goal scorer, where Seneca's probably a little bit more the playmaker, although he's shown the ability to generate shots and chances for himself as well. I think that we're looking at a potentially special player here with Beckett Seneca at this point in this Anaheim system, with a little bit of that run and gun to their game. I think that this is a player that I'll be heavily invested in next year. That's a player that you should be looking at if he gets dropped for this week that we have here with Anaheim. 3 games, 0 off nights for week 22. Then they come back week 23 with 4 games and 3 off nights. That's a player that you're going to want to be interested in picking up. I think, like before tonight's game, he's on a 24-goal, 62-point pace. I think this is a guy who, if he is able to take another step next year, honestly, if he keeps up this last 10 games pace, what he's been putting up in terms of the underlying numbers, if he does that again for close to a full season next year, he could be looking at closer to a point per game pace in the right situation. So I really like what I'm seeing out of Seneca and the underlying numbers here. I'm all aboard this train. How about you, Blake?
Yeah, man. Special season for him already, I think. And like you said, his ability to generate chances for himself, and not so much shots. Like shots are fine, but like his ability to generate chances, I think, has been really good. I think he's running out of gas a little bit, right? Like, and I think his time is being managed a little bit. You can see his ice time last few games here, like 15 minutes tonight, 50 minutes the game before. He's got some of those 15-minute games sprinkled in with some 20-minute games. So I just think that's sort of the development of a young player, but I'm with you. I think this is a guy we absolutely have to be in on next year. He's shown insane level poise at his young age to be able to step in and play to this level of hockey. And obviously he does have some work to do defensively just to kind of keep himself out there more at important times of the game. But Beckett Seneca is an absolute smash. I think we should probably get him at value again next year.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see where he goes in drafts next year. If he's going in like the double-digit rounds, like if he's a 62-point pace, like similar to what we said about a guy like Will Smith, right?
Leo Carlson.
Leo Carlson will be an interesting one as well to see where he goes. I'd be very interested in a lot of Ducks for next year. All right, last order of business, we need to recap the head-to-head streamer death match, and looks like another classic Nate W this week. I had Alexis Lafreniere, Blake had Cole Perfetti. Lafreniere ended up with 18.6 APL points and Perfetti 16.1, so it was relatively close at the end. I lead 12-7-1 on the season. We are playing out the string. I played out the string last year in a similar position, so I'm gonna make you do it this year, Blake. We'll continue on. You've got Elias Lindholm for this week. I got Frank Nazar, and we'll see who comes out ahead.
Just so hurtful. Oh my God! You know what? Like 2 years in a row of winning, it's fine. I'll take a loss here this year. I will play out the string, but buddy, coming for you next year. All right. We're getting to biz. I don't even care.
All right. Well, if you made it this far, you should click the link in the description. Join the Discord community. Come talk fantasy hockey with all of the 2,000 fantasy hockey managers already in there. If you don't mind, click like, rate this video, or rate this podcast, I guess more accurately, wherever you're listening to it. Whatever you can do, rating, review, subscribe, comment, whatever is available to you on the platform of your choice would be fantastic for us. We really do appreciate it. But that is going to be all that we've got for this episode. So hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick and 18 Skaters. Many thanks to Matt Creamer for supplying music for the podcast. That's it, folks. Much love.